Hello everyone. In this video I'll show you how to use the Vectoreal Photoshop plugin. This is my very first Photoshop plugin and it will transform your regular photos into nice vector style artworks and will also convert them into real scalable vector shapes. Well, I generally don't give an intro to my product guide videos and I jump straight into the examples, but today I cannot help but say a little things about this Vectoreal plugin. It started back in 2017 when I created my very first vector art Photoshop action. It could also transform your images into vector shapes, but it was not fully automatic. Since then, I have always thought about creating an automated solution, but couldn't do so due to time constraints and certain other limitations. But today I have finally created the true successor to the vector art in the form of this Vectoreal plugin. I'm kind of satisfied with the final results and I hope you like it too. Well, that's all with the long intro, and without further ado, let's get started. This video might be a bit long as I have lots of things to cover about this Vectoreal plugin. Everything will be timestamped in the video descriptions and you can switch to any section that you want. Now before starting with the examples, this plugin works with Photoshop CC 2015.5 and above, and it uses the oil paint filter. So please make sure you have oil paint filter enabled. You can check it from here. Go to filter, stylize, oil paint. Oil paint should be enabled for you for this action to work correctly. Okay, over here I have listed down the versions with which this plugin will work. So this works with Photoshop CC 2015.5 and above, and for Photoshop CC 2014 and 2015 to 15.1 this will not work because oil paint filter is missing there, and for Photoshop CS6 CC and older than that, the scripting, the code is not compatible. So you should have Photoshop 2015.5 or any newer versions to make this plugin work. Great, now let's jump into the examples and let's see what this plugin can do for you. So this is a regular image of a car, and once the plugin runs on it, it will create something like this. This is a vector style artwork that will get produced by the plugin's vector painter engine. And also the best part here is you can save out any of these vector images as a SVG file or EPS and take it to your any other vector editing software and do any modifications. Like as you can see, I have saved the same image as an SVG file. So these are all vector shapes and I can zoom and I will not lose any quality or clarity because these are all vector shapes. So let me also show you the same file over here in Photoshop. So this is the file, this is the image after vector conversion. So these are the various layers or parts of the color that you can see. So this is like any other vector layers, so you can do all other vector operations on it. So I have selected the direct selection tool from here and I will show you. So here are the anchor points, you can change them and modify it just like any other vector operations. So let's see a few more examples. Over here there is an example of a portrait. So this one also works fine with portraits, inanimate objects, models, anything that you can think of. Let's also have a look at the SVG file. Here is an inanimate object and this is the final result. You can customize the shapes and the pattern that you see in the background of the main subject. I will show you in detail when I run the plugin and I customize all these various options. Here is again the SVG file, the vector file exported after running the Vectorizer. Here is an example with a different shape in the background. And this is the SVG file. Now with the Vectorizer tool of this Vectoreal plugin, you can also convert your already made logos or cliparts to vector images. You did not run the vector painter part of the plugin, and you can directly run the Vectorizer on any of your images to convert them into vector shapes. So this was a simple logo with a single color, and this was a PNG image, and this is converted into an SVG file that contains the vector shapes. The Vectorizer part of this plugin also works on simple cliparts like this one. This is a simple clipart, and this is the vector file. There are a couple of more examples. Great. Now let's load up our plugin. To do that, you need to navigate to your download package, where you will find these two files, or rather one file and the folder Vectorial PS plugin and the installer.jsx file. This is very important that you should not modify anything inside this folder, otherwise the plugin will not work properly. Now to load it into Photoshop, you can do this. You can simply select the installer.jsx file and drag and drop it into Photoshop and it will load. Also, you can do this. You can go to File, Script and Browse. You need to go to your main Vectorial download package, and inside that you will find installer file inside. Go inside that folder and select installer.jsx file and click load. You'll get this prompt message: Vectorial installed successfully. Please restart your Photoshop. So yes, let's restart Photoshop. And hopefully you will see that the plugin is loaded into Photoshop. The plugin will be available under Window, Extensions, and over here you will see Vectorial. The plugin will be loaded over here. Select it and the plugin will appear in your toolbar and it will open something like this. So this Vectorial plugin is done in such a way it follows all Photoshop rules and regulations. So you can do basically anything that you can do with all other panels in Photoshop. Like you can resize, you can change your Photoshop theme color and the plugin will automatically adapt to it. Also, you can dock it anywhere you want like this. So you can do everything that you are familiar with Photoshop panels. Now, one thing that I would like to mention is if you are having Photoshop CC 2018 and above, then you need not to perform the step that I'm going to tell you. But if you are having Photoshop CC 2017 or older versions, then please select your brush tool and make sure opacity and flow are set to 100% and mode is normal. If you have Photoshop CC 2018 or newer versions, you do not need to do this. This will already be handled by the plugin itself. Great. Now let's try running the plugin onto our first example. I'll select this image and load it into Photoshop. Now here in the plugin you'll get two main sections. One is the painter and the second is the vectorizer. What the painter will do is the painter will transform your photo into a vector style image, or which is popularly known as the voxel art. So after you turn it into a vector styled image, you can convert it using the vectorizer. Also, if you do not wish to convert your image into a vector styled artwork and you already have something that you readily want to convert into a vector shape like the logo or the clipper that I was showing you earlier, you can simply head over to this vectorizer part of the plugin and run the vectorizer. But here I'll first run the painter and show you what it can do, and then I'll run the vectorizer. So first you need to head over to the create tab. So the painter has two tabs, one is create and then edit. Edit will let you customize various elements that will be generated after you run the create part of the plugin. So over here in create, here is step 1, which says you need to mark the subject selection. What subject selection means is that you need to mark the main focus area of your image where you want to apply the vector styled effect. So I highly recommend you run the manual. What manual will do is it will create an empty layer and it will already select the brush for you, and you need to mark your main subject area like this. You can also use different operations like the quick selection pen tool to quickly select out your subject. You should be as precise as you can with this subject selection. Next we have full. What full will do is it will try to mark your entire subject and try to apply the vector style painting onto your whole image. But I recommend you would not like to use this more often, and you would only want to mark out your main subject area. Like as in this example, I have so much white space around the car and I do not want to vectorize them or turn into a vector style painting, so definitely I would rather prefer manual to full. Also we have auto over here, and what auto will do is Photoshop will try to programmatically figure out what is the main subject area in your image. And one thing to note here is that this auto mode will only work with Photoshop CC 2018 January update and newer versions. So if you have an older version of Photoshop, this button will be disabled. So let's try this auto as I'm using Photoshop CC 2020. Let's click it and the plugin is running. It has marked a subject area. It says the area of focus is approximately marked on the subject layer. You may need to modify it manually. Once done, you may run the vector painter. So yes, it has done a nice job, but I can see some of the areas are missing. So the brush is already selected, the color is selected. I just need to precisely mark here and the areas that you feel have been missed out by this auto subject selection tool. Also, if you want to learn more about this different modes, you can hover over to this help icon and it will show you what these different modes mean. Now with that done, if you are satisfied with your subject selection, you can simply run the vector painter. And before that, we have here optimize image slider. And what this will do is this will try to resize your image to 3500 pixels along the shorter side to remove any possibilities of error that might come during the application of the vector painter. So I'd recommend you turn it on and let's hit run vector painter. It will take some time for the plugin to finish processing. We'll fast forward from here and get back when it's done. We have finished running the vector painter and we have got a success message. It says the vector painter has successfully transformed your image. That's great. So here we have all the layers, and one thing to note here is that the vector painter will already convert all your layers into vector shapes. Only the color layers will be the raster layers. This is done because we have given you 5 different variations of this color layer. So here are subtle differences. You will see that there is a minimal tone going and there are more complex shapes like this one. So you can select the raster layer and run the vectorize always after this is done. So it says raster style 1, select layer and vectorize. Other than that, everything that you will see here has already been vectorized. So going over the layers, what has been already generated here are the base elements that holds the background shape, background pattern, the splatter elements around the main image, and these are all color fill layers, so you can double click and change the color of these layers. And the same goes for the black and white art elements over here. So I'll come to them in a moment when we'll be running the edit part of this painter. So now let's head up to our edit section. So here we have edit shapes, edit patterns, and edit black and white sketch. So here are 15 shapes that you can see and you can choose from. You can simply click one of the shapes and the plugin will apply that shape onto your image. And the same goes for the patterns. You can click the pattern and the pattern will automatically apply onto your image. And one thing over here is that after you run a different shape, you can see that the pattern is bleeding out of the shape. So you can again run the same pattern and it will align itself with the shape that you have ran previously. But you might also want to have a different try, like you can select the shape, align the pattern to it, and then choose a different shape. What this will do is it will try to offset the dots of the patterns with the shape, and which might give you a different feel and it might look more organic. So you can also experiment with that. Now we have our custom shape. So what custom shape will do is it will allow you to choose an image and apply that image as a shape or a pattern to your file. So let's select a different image for this custom shape. So here we have this logo, the example that I was showing you earlier. So let's select this and hit OK. So here you will see that that custom image has been applied over here into our main file. Also over here you can see that there is a toggle switch called place automatically. So what place automatically will do is if you turn it off and then try to apply a shape, you will get an option to resize the shape before it gets placed. So you can also do the same after the shape has been applied. Like you can select the shape layer and you can just select free transform and you can transform, you can resize, you can rotate, you can do all operations. But we also have this place automatically slider over here if you want to do it while you are placing the shapes. Let's try it again. Great. And the same goes for the patterns. You can toggle this place automatically off and then select a different pattern and you will get the option to resize the pattern before it gets placed into the document. And over here we also have the custom pattern. Selecting the custom pattern will let you select the image from your own files. Just make sure that this image is a .png, .svg, .gif or any other images with a transparent background. Select it and click OK and you will see that your file will be applied as a pattern into the main artwork. Let's select a different pattern for now. So now over here we have the enable black and white sketch. Toggling the slider on will turn on the black and white sketches. So what this is doing is this is basically turning on the visibility of these layers. So here we have three different types of sketch: heavy, medium and light sketch. You can toggle between them. And also what you can do is you can manually try and experiment these sketch layers along with your color layers. So as you can see, you can mix and match and see what you like most out of this. So let's turn this black and white sketch off for now. So that's all for the edit section. Now we can head straight into the vectorize section of this plugin. Click this Vectorizer tab to open the vectorizing section of this plugin. And it says here, this Vectorizer tool works with any image even if you have not transformed the image with Vectoreal Vector Painter. What it tries to say is that you can take advantage of this tool and transform any of your image into a vector shape, like I was showing you with the examples of the logo or the clipart. And even if you have not transformed it into a vector styled image like what I did with the painter section, the Vectorizer will work on it just like it would on any other image. So you just need to select a raster layer like this one and run the Vectorizer. So if you select any other layer like this vector shape layer and then run the Vectorizer, it will give you an error that you have not selected the raster layer. Please select the correct layer. So you need to select a raster layer before you run the Vectorizer. And over here, let's go over the different parameters that we have. First is optimize size. This will again try to optimize the size of your image to 3500 pixels along the shorter side so that we can remove any unwanted errors that may come while running the plugin. Also, we have different presets here. The first is default. Next is clipart, then one color logo, text logo, and photo. What this will do is this will change the sliders to different predefined values. You can also manually change them and customize and experiment on your own, but I have already given you 5 different presets that I feel you would need most. First is default. Default is for the images that you have transformed using the painter section, like the one I'm showing you right now. And next we have clipart. This is the second example that I'll be showing you after this one. Then one color logo, like the logo I was showing you in the examples, like this one. And text logos are like different images. If you have majority of text elements, you can try applying this preset. And the last one is photo, like your regular photo. Like take for example, I have not ran the vector painter, but I want to vectorize my entire photo just as it is. So you can select this preset. But I would highly recommend you not to run the vectorizer on a photo just as is, but transform it into a vector style image using the painter and then run the vectorizer. So let's select default for now because I have already converted with the vector painter. And now I'll just give a brief overview of what these parameters mean. First is color level. You can select color level from 1 to 32, but I'd recommend you keep it at 16 for better performance. And next is reduce noise. This will try to smoothen and soften out your image and try to remove any artifacts that are already there in your image. So more artifacts means more jagged edges that you can get, and more random paths will be generated and unwanted paths will be created. So you can reduce noise if you feel your image has lots of artifacts or noise. Next is smooth paths. Smooth paths will try to combine different paths and try to create a streamlined shape. So if you have an already nice isolated image like the logo or the clipart, you can reduce the number of paths. But for a normal image like the one that I'm showing you right now, it's advisable to keep the path at 3. For most of the images, you will find that you are getting the optimal result if you keep the path at 3. Well, let's select our raster layer and run the vectorizer. It will take some time and we'll fast forward from here and get back when it's done. Great, we have a success message and it says your image has been successfully converted into vector shapes. So let's see what we have got in our layers panel. Here are the different vector shapes for our different colors, and you can see that these are all isolated shapes like I was showing you a bit earlier, and you can perform any vector operations on these shapes. Now we also have means to export the vector file. So you can export it out as an SVG or as an EPS from this plugin. So here we have an optional slider to keep only vector layers. So what this will do is, if by any chance you have any raster layer like these layers on and you hit the export as SVG, it will try to remove all these raster layers and only keep the vector layers. Why this is given? It's because if you're converting this file into an SVG file, what can happen is that this raster information can get written into the SVG as a base 64, which will not be scalable and will not have any vector properties. So to remove this kind of error, so this is added, this slider, you can keep it on, and let's keep it on for now and hit export SVG. So you will see that all the raster layers which are visible right now will be hidden when we hit this button, and it will open a dialog to export as SVG. So now if you see that the format is not SVG, you can simply expand it and you can select SVG from here and export and save your image according to the different width or height that you want to have. I'll close this dialog for now. Also, we have export as EPS. You can click it and you will get a prompt to save the file as an EPS document. Now let's show our second example, and that is of this clipart. This is a clipart and we have a nice isolated color layers here. I do not want to convert it into a vector styled image using the painter, and I just would want to vectorize it. So I can simply select my clipart preset from here and hit run Vectorizer. But before that, I have defaulted the color level to 8 for clipart, and let's see how many color levels we have here. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, so I think yeah, 8 should be fine. And let's run the Vectorizer. The Vectorizer has finished processing, and here are the vector layers. Here you can see the different vector shapes that are created. And you can export it out as an SVG or an EPS file. Now let's look at our third example, and that is of a single color logo. So this logo is again having nice isolated color areas, and it's single color, so I can select this one color logo preset from here, and you can see it has already selected a color level of 1. And let's run the Vectorizer. And here we have our vector shapes. So you'll always get a base fill to fill in any left out space, so we won't need here because we only have one color. And here is our vector shape. So it is that easy to convert your images into a vector style artwork or into a vector shape from your already created logo or clipart. So I'll quickly show you another example. I'll run the vector painter on this image and then run the Vectorizer. It's reiterating the first example again, but I'll quickly show you another demo. So here I'll select the vector painter, I'll go to create, I'll try to create an auto selection and see what Photoshop does. So it has left out some of the areas which I'll quickly mark. I'm doing it quickly for the sake of the video, but you should take as much time as you can and mark it as precisely as you could. So this should be good for now, and let's run the vector painter. We'll fast forward from here and get back when it's done. So here we have our success message, and our photo has been converted into a vector style painting. So we can edit the different shapes here, but before editing I want to show you that the painter and the Vectorizer are separate operations, separate entity. So for an image converted using the painter, you can run the Vectorizer and then again come back to the painter and edit any shapes or patterns that you want to change. So let's select the raster layer I want to vectorize. I'll select the default preset because this is the one I'm converting from Vector Painter into Vectorizer. So let's select the default option from here and run Vectorizer. We'll fast forward and get back when it's done. We have our success message over here, and here are the different vector layers that are generated. And now let's change our shape. Let's select this one. And let's align these dots with the new shape. So there you have it. Also, before finishing, here we have different means to contact in case you face any issues. Like you can click this help icon and you can select this button to directly email in case you face any issues. You can always check the document and the guide video by clicking this icon and then clicking the button. And obviously, if you love Vectoreal, please don't forget to rate the plugin. You can do so by clicking this button over here. So that's all for the Vectoreal Real Vector Painting and Converter Photoshop plugin. I hope you like this one. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay creative.